Hey there, everybody. Dr. JP Guidry here with pillar number 3. Today, we're going to talk about power development. And so, this is another important part I think people are missing out of their programs. And I think people that um, even are trying to include this aren't really utilizing it properly. So, we'll get into what this means as well as how to put it into your program. So, what is power development? So, when we talk about strength, strength is the maximal force you can apply to a load. Power is the speed at which you can apply that force. So, we have to have a strength base. So, that still goes back to pillar number 1. We have to have enough strength to produce force. And then we need to be able to take that strength and use it as speed and power. So, and then we need to be able to carry that over to the golf swing, which to a degree comes more on the teaching side. So power in the golf swing essentially is measured as club head speed. This begins with the lower body first, progressing to the torso, leading to the arms, hands, wrists, and then eventually the club head. So again, how we sequence the golf swing plays a big part in this, but we're going to talk about this more from the physical development side than the mechanics of the swing side. But each of these segments have to have a certain level of strength. So again, that goes back to pillar 1. We need strong arms, we need strong legs, we need a strong torso, we need even strong grip strength to generate speed. So how we develop speed to a degree is depending on the nervous system. So when we're training for speed and power, we're training our nervous system to essentially fire quicker, and for a lack of better words. We use what's called the stretch shortening cycle, which is if you think about a muscular contraction. So if you think about a bicep curl, when we're curling the dumbbell up, we're using what's called a concentric motion. If we were to hold it in place, we're using what's called an isometric contraction. And as we control the lowering, we're using that eccentric contraction. So the stretch shortening cycle occurs when the eccentric muscular action, when the muscle is lengthened, is followed immediately by a quick burst concentric muscular action. So if you think we're winding it up, so that's that kind of X factor. We're winding up those muscles, pulling them taut, and then we're letting them go in the proper sequence. So we need to have strength first to be able to do that, and then we need to train our bodies to do it very quickly. So power exercises, generally we want these to be performed early on in the workout or on off days. So we don't want to be fatigued when doing this. We want to be fresh. So you kind of maybe you've warmed up and then you jump right into these. They should be formed with low reps. So you're talking 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps. And we should have a longer rest period in between our sets. So 2 to 3 minutes. And the main thing where I think people miss out on this is these should be performed at high intensity. So I see so many people doing things like kettlebell swings or medicine ball throws or cable rotations for golf, but they do them very slowly. If you want to get fast, you have to train fast. So you have to move explosively with these movements. You have to go all out. This should be essentially a 10 out of 10 as far as intensity, and then we rest and recover. So that's kind of one of the biggest points I want to make with this is we need to be at full intensity when performing these. Speed training, power training, intent is the key. So what kind of exercises are we going to do? Well, jumps is the first one. That's how we're going to create some lower body power. In order to jump, we have to learn landing. So having some work on landing mechanics, which is basically just being able to almost grab the ground, absorb the forces. We want to kind of land in an athletic position as to prevent injury. And this is really easing yourself into it. So if you haven't jumped in a while, it's okay to just kind of ease into the jumping and not go with that full intent right away. And just do a regular squat jump. So we don't have to get crazy with box jumps and things like that. That maybe bring more of a chance of injury into it. I don't use a whole lot of box jumps except with my younger athletes and people that are very attuned to jumping. A simple squat jump and then starting to add some rotations. But learning how to land too is very important with that. And there are different ones: lunge jumps, box jumps, single leg jumps. Um, but for you, if you're a beginner, just starting with the basic squat jump is a good place to start, and you can stay there for a real long time and still see benefit. The next one is medicine ball throws, medicine ball variations. And the big thing with this is, again, making sure we're sequencing proper. So we're using to the ground to create the throw. So this is not all just an upper body movement. We're especially things like scoop throws, which you'll see in the video. We're just delivering the ball with the upper body. The lower body is creating the speed and the movement. So it's no difference in the golf swing in that you're still going to drive through the ground. You're going to drive through the lower body to throw the medicine ball at the wall, at the target. I always try to throw the ball through the wall. But it's very important to kind of get the sequencing down with this to get the most effect from it. For those of you that don't have medicine balls, we can mimic rotation with cable machines and bands. But the same thing applies. So we want to move fast with this. We want to use the body, the lower body, to create it. We want to use the torso, and the arms are just delivering it. And then we want to control that weight back. So not just letting the machine, the band, the cables jerk us back. But really the key with these is moving fast. So that's probably the area I think most people lose out when they're trying to do these exercises. And again, the other areas would be making sure we're staying low rep, high intensity, and making sure we're resting and recovering so that we can restore those energy systems so that the next time we go, we're going at 100%. We're filling that tank back up. Lastly, speed intentional training. So most of us have heard of the super speed or other similar type of things for overspeed training. It's become very popular, and there's two issues with this. One issue is people that aren't using it without a supporting strength and conditioning program. We're seeing some injuries result of this. The body's not ready for the load and the reps that you put on. So again, this all goes back to number one, building a solid strength base. Number two is they're doing too much of it, too many reps. I'm not a huge fan of the protocol that Super Speed puts out. I think it's too much. I have my players generally stick to 3 sets of 10 right and left. And there's some different variations you can do with it. Obviously, just the regular swing. We can do some step change swings, some different swings within that. But in one setting, I'd like to only do 3 sets of 10 right and left when starting out. Once you get comfortable with that, you can potentially add some more volume. But jumping straight into those high volume protocols that they put out tends to lead to injury. I've seen a lot of golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, and back injuries from this, and it's purely just a volume thing, going from nothing to that, and then on top of that, not having the strength in your body to handle that. So the same thing goes though, high intensity, fast as you can go, 2 to 3 minute rest period between each set. There's other types of overspeed training, and something as simple as just teeing up a ball. So if you're on the range, you're hitting balls. I'd like to have people at some point, maybe, once they've warmed up a little bit, tee up 10 to 30 balls and with your driver and go at it with the only intent of hitting it as far as you can. I think as golfers, we tend to put too much of a governor on ourselves. We're trying to steer the ball and guide the ball. We don't allow ourselves to swing as fast as we can. So part of this is improving your body's ability to create speed. And part of this is what overspeed training does, is kind of unlocking what's already there. And unlocking kind of that break we put on ourselves because we're so worried about hitting it straight. Obviously we want to be able to control the golf ball, but for all the arguments out there that distance is an issue, outside of the PGA Tour, distance is an issue, but it's on the opposite side. People don't have enough. And so you've got to kind of unlock that speed you have and then utilize the strength training and the power training to improve your body's ability to create more speed. So keep this in mind. I think this is an important part of performance, especially. We all know that more distance generally leads to lower scores. With all other things being equal, the closer you are to the hole, the shorter club you have at hand. Shorter club you have in your hand, the more likely you are to put it closer to the pin, and closer to the pin you are, the more likely you are to make the putt. Those are just kind of that's the numbers we see. Those are the facts. So getting distance, the biggest part of getting distance is strength and power. Having a strength base, training for power and speed. And that's where most golfers that I've worked with are really missing out and can really make a huge jump in their swing speed and their distance. So again, as always, if you have any questions, reach out to me at johnpaul@guidrypt.com, and we'll look forward to